Hey, what's up, Hoobins? Friends of Ood-Kind here, and welcome back to the channel, and welcome to another Doctor Who episode review. And today I'm going to be reviewing Story 2, The Daleks, Episode 1, The Dead Planet, written by Terry Nation. So continuing on from the last episode of An Unearthly Child, the last episode of that, which was The Firemaker, the Doctor and the TARDIS team has escaped and landed on another planet, where the Doctor asked Susan to read the outside radiation, and it reads normal, but when Susan walks away from it, it goes off the scale. So the TARDIS team, thinking that the radiation is fine, step outside the TARDIS to discover that there is little to no vegetation or anything growing. And Barbara likens it to a great fire that has happened, but the Doctor explains it as a petrified jungle, where the branches on the trees are still strong, but there's no leaves growing from it, but there is a very strong breeze blowing. I actually do like the scene where Barbara says to Ian that the Doctor deserves something bad to happen to him, and Ian jokingly agrees, because all they want is to go back home. And then Ian points out that the Doctor has a knack of getting himself into trouble. An interesting character development scene is when Susan discovers that there is a perfect flower growing in the petrified jungle. It sort of tells me that Susan really kind of likes nature. Another scene that I found very insightful about the place that they have landed is where the TARDIS team discover a reptile-like creature which appears to be made of stone, but is actually metal. And then the Doctor says, "Can't you imagine a creature unless it is made of flesh and bone and blood?" I think that what the Doctor says there in that scene, I think that brings out how much little trust or enjoyment he gets out of humanity. I also found the next scene very interesting, where the team realize that they're not on Earth, and Barbara wants nothing more than to go back home. And she admits that she is an unwilling adventurer. So in that, I think we see a little bit of character development within Barbara. And then the Doctor reminds Ian and Barbara that in the rush to get away from the caveman tribe, he couldn't set the coordinates in the TARDIS specifically to go back to Earth. And then Barbara asks Susan if there is records of places they've been in the TARDIS, and Susan replies, yes, there's records and coordinates of everywhere that they have been. I really enjoyed the scene where the TARDIS team discover that there is a huge city that the Doctor is determined to explore, simply because there is no movement or life or anything happening in the city. And Susan agrees that she wants to go to see the city, but Ian and Barbara don't. All they want to do is go home. And during that conversation, Susan is sure that something has touched her on the shoulder. And when she tells the Doctor doesn't believe her. And in the scene, Susan tells Barbara that she is tired of people not believing her. And I like how Susan's character comes out, and the human side of her, and tries to comfort Susan. I also enjoyed the scene after that where they're all back in the TARDIS, and Ian really wants to get an answer from the Doctor, not just for him but for Barbara as well, about when they're going to be able to go back home. But then the Doctor reminds him that they actually forced their way into the ship. Another interesting scene was discovering that on board the TARDIS there is a food vending machine. And then the Doctor tries to get the TARDIS going to take off, but it doesn't go anywhere. it abruptly stops because there is something wrong. And when Susan goes to check what is wrong, she says it is K7, which is the fluid link, and it needs mercury. And the only way to get mercury for this particular fluid link is by hoping that there's some mercury into the city. So they have to go there. I think this was a very clever lie from the Doctor, just to get his way to go and explore the city. Which again brings out another character trait within the Doctor. And then when they go outside, they discover that there has been a metal box left, and Susan is convinced that it is from whatever or whoever touched her on the shoulder. She's convinced that it was dropped by whatever that was. So the TARDIS team walk into the city just to generally explore the city and to try and find some mercury for the fluid link, where Ian and the Doctor are not really feeling well because of the radiation. But they go on exploring the city together. And Barbara goes off exploring by herself, and then the other three are trying to look for her to find her. And then we are treated to that brilliant, iconic cliffhanger. That cliffhanger is great. Where Barbara has stumbled across something that she's not particularly pleased with, and she is screaming, and then it cuts back and we see Barbara screaming, but all we see is what looks like a plunger, which in my personal opinion is one of my favorite cliffhangers, not just of Doctor Who but of TV, because we're not quite sure what this thing is. All we can see is a plunger, which I think is great direction. So anyways, guys, I hope you enjoyed that, and let me know in the comments below if you have seen this particular episode, what you think of it. And I will be reviewing episode 2 of this particular story, which I believe is called The Survivors. And that should be up within a couple of days on this channel. But anyways, guys, thank you for watching, and like and subscribe. And I'll see you again soon.